Have you ever watched someone lose it? Not in a dramatic, table-flipping way, but in that quiet, calculated way that makes the whole room go still? Like they didn't raise their voice once, but somehow every single person in that room knew something irreversible had just happened? That's not a movie scene. That's an INTJ who finally reached their limit. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of it, you already know, there's no coming back from that conversation the way it was before. Here's what nobody tells you about INTJs. They are one of the most patient personality types you'll ever meet, right up until the moment they're not. And that gap between their daily calm and what happens when something finally breaks through it, that gap is what throws everyone off. People see a composed, reserved individual day after day. They mistake that composure for passivity. They mistake the silence for comfort. They mistake the INTJ's tolerance for unlimited permission. That's the mistake. The myth of the unbothered INTJ. Let's get one thing straight. INTJs are not unbothered. They just look that way. There's a massive difference between someone who doesn't feel things and someone who has learned over a lifetime to keep what they feel behind a very thick wall. INTJs are deeply, intensely internal people. Their dominant function is introverted intuition, which means they're constantly processing information, reading patterns, running simulations in their head about how things are going to play out. They notice everything. They just choose not to react to most of it, because INTJs tend to see emotional displays as inefficient. So they develop an extraordinary ability to absorb friction without showing it. They take in the rudeness, the disrespect, the broken promises, and they file it away. Quietly. Systematically. But filing something away isn't the same as letting it go. That distinction matters more than most people ever realize. What nobody clocks. Here's something most people miss entirely. INTJs notice everything. Not in a warm, socially engaged way, in a forensic way. They're watching how you treat the waiter. They caught the micro-expression you didn't know you made. They filed away the comment you thought was throwaway. And they don't bring any of it up right away. That would be inefficient. That would be reactive. INTJs don't confront in the moment unless the moment truly demands it, and they have a very high threshold for what demands it actually means. So they catalog. They wait. They observe more. Most people interpret this as the INTJ being fine. They interpret the lack of confrontation as acceptance. They think the silence means the thing didn't land. It landed. Every single time. They just chose not to react to it yet. This is the fundamental misread that sets everything in motion. While you're going about your life thinking things are normal, the INTJ has been quietly, methodically building a complete picture of your patterns. Your inconsistencies. Your repeated failures. Your small disrespects and your large ones. All of it, organized, cross-referenced in their mind with everything else you've ever done. They don't call it keeping score. They call it knowing who you are. The slow build. INTJ anger doesn't start loud. It starts as a conclusion. Something shifts internally, usually when a pattern has repeated itself enough times to be undeniable, and the INTJ quietly arrives at a verdict. Not an emotional one. A logical one. Something like, this person doesn't respect me, or this relationship has been compromising my integrity for too long. Once they reach that conclusion, something changes in how they show up. The conversation gets a little shorter. The enthusiasm drops a degree. They stop volunteering extra information. They stop going out of their way. Most people don't catch it, because the INTJ is still showing up, still polite, still doing what needs to be done. But inside, they've already begun the process of detachment, pulling their energy back quietly, systematically, like someone slowly walking toward the door without announcing they're leaving. This phase can last weeks, sometimes months. The INTJ isn't being passive-aggressive. They genuinely don't see the point of confrontation unless there's a realistic chance of resolution. So they hold it, and it compounds. What actually gets under their skin? Not everything bothers an INTJ equally. Small inconveniences don't really touch them. They can handle conflict, pressure, even failure, as long as it's honest and they can work with it. But specific things cut straight through their composure. Intellectual dishonesty is one of the biggest. When someone argues in bad faith, twisting facts, moving goalposts, using emotional manipulation instead of reason, it doesn't just frustrate the INTJ. It offends them at a core level. It feels like an insult to the entire process of genuine communication. Disrespect disguised as affection cuts deep too. When someone treats an INTJ like they're too serious or too much, mocking their standards under the guise of being playful, it hits a nerve that goes all the way back. But the thing that does the deepest damage is having their boundaries repeatedly ignored. INTJs communicate limits clearly and expect them to be respected. When someone keeps pushing past them, Even after being told not to, that's where the most serious resentment builds. Quietly. Without announcement. Right up until it isn't quiet anymore. When the mask slips, then something happens. It's usually not the big thing. It's the thing that comes after months of small things. The one extra comment. The one instance of disrespect too many. The one moment where someone oversteps a boundary the INTJ had privately marked as the final one. And that's when the mask slips. What comes out isn't a meltdown. It's not tears, raised voices, or thrown objects. What comes out is something far more unsettling, complete and total clarity. They will look at you, not with anger in their eyes, but with a calm that feels colder than anger, and they will begin to speak. And what they say is going to be everything they've been holding. But it won't come out in fragments or emotion. It'll come out as a fully formed argument. Structured, evidence-based, chronologically precise. They're going to cite specific incidents. They're going to connect dots between things that happen months apart in ways that will make your head spin. And the whole time they won't raise their voice once. That's what makes it so disorienting. People are wired to respond to emotional anger with emotional counter-anger. But there's no emotional hook to grab onto here. It's surgical. It's precise. And it's devastating because every single thing they're saying is accurate. You can't fight logic with feelings. And that's exactly where they want you. The door nobody sees closing. Here's what most people don't understand until it's already happened. INTJ confrontation is not the beginning of a fight. It's the end of a deliberation. By the time they're saying these things to your face, they have already processed them fully. They've already gone through whatever grief or disappointment was involved. They've arrived on the other side. What you're hearing isn't them in the middle of their emotions. It's them after their emotions. The morning happened while you still thought everything was fine. This is what makes the door slam so final. When an INTJ shuts someone out, it doesn't look like a dramatic exit. The door doesn't slam in the theatrical sense. It quietly ceases to exist. One day you have an INTJ in your life, fully present, offering you their rare and genuine attention. And then without any announcement you don't. No fight. No ultimatum. No tearful goodbye. Just an absence where there used to be a presence. And if you try to push past it, if you knock looking for a reaction, you'll mostly get nothing. Because by the time that door closes, the decision was made a long time ago. The signs people always miss. The warning signs are there. They're always there. People just miss them because they don't look the way most expect. Watch for over-politeness. When an INTJ becomes unusually formal with someone they were previously warm with, it means they've moved you from the category of person I trust to person I'm managing. The warmth doesn't vanish in a flash. It quietly gets replaced by a professional courtesy that has no real feeling behind it. Watch for brevity. INTJs who are engaged will talk, not endlessly but meaningfully. When their responses start getting shorter, when they stop elaborating, pay attention. And watch for this one most of all, when they stop correcting you. INTJs can't resist fixing wrong information. It's almost reflexive. When an INTJ hears you say something incorrect and just lets it go, it usually means they've decided the relationship isn't worth the effort of engaging. These are subtractions, not additions. It's not what they're doing differently, it's what they've quietly stopped doing. What this means? INTJ rage is not loud. It's not theatrical. It doesn't announce itself in advance or give you a clear warning label. It builds in silence, matures in precision, and arrives, when it arrives, fully formed and completely devastating. The reason nobody sees it coming is that most people watch for heat when they should be watching for cold. They're looking for the raised voice when the real warning sign is the one that goes quiet. What this ultimately comes down to is simple. INTJs are not complicated to get along with. They want honesty. They want their time and intelligence respected. They want people who mean what they say. Give them that, and you have one of the most loyal, intellectually generous, deeply invested people you will ever know in your corner. Don't give them that, and keep not giving them that after they've quietly, invisibly decided it's a pattern, and one day you'll find yourself in a conversation that feels less like an argument and more like a verdict being read aloud. And by that point, the decision has already been made. The only question left is whether you were paying close enough attention to see it coming.